it's an idiot that's in the White House, we know that, but he hires idiots. And one of the biggest ones is Carolyn Levitt, big-time liar, White House spokesman. And boy, she just straight lied from the podium regarding some reporting of the BBC. And they did a brutal fact check of this fool. And I saw it and I said, we gotta roll it.
On Tuesday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt was asked about reports that Israeli forces had killed Palestinians near an aid distribution centre in Gaza. Her reply was an attack on the BBC and was repeatedly false.
We don't take the word of Hamas with total truth. We like to look into it when they speak. Unlike the BBC, who had multiple headlines. They wrote, Israeli tank kills 26, Israeli tank kills 21, Israeli gunfire kills 31, Red Cross says 21 people were killed in an aid incident, and then, oh wait, they had to correct and take down their entire story, saying we reviewed the footage and couldn't find any evidence of anything.
This contains a mix of misrepresentations and untruths. When speaking, Caroline Levitt held up a printout. It showed a post on X by a student activist. Its focus, and hers, was the BBC's coverage on Sunday. Residents had reported Israeli fire near an aid centre. Over the course of the day, the BBC repeatedly updated its coverage, as is standard on a breaking news story. Updated claims on fatalities were all clearly attributed to a number of sources in Gaza, including the Red Cross, which is an independent organisation. Sourcing like this is standard when a story is evolving and details are hard to confirm. It's also a necessary aspect of covering this conflict, given Israel doesn't allow international news organisations into Gaza. During the press conference, Caroline Levitt also had this particular criticism.
Unfortunately, unlike some in the media, we don't take the word of Hamas with total truth.
But BBC News didn't do that. It did quote the Hamas-run health ministry with clear attribution. The ministry, which is part of the Hamas-controlled government, is the main source of official information when it comes to casualties in Gaza. The BBC also reported statements it received from the Israel Defense Forces, which called the reports false and urged the media to be cautious. Caroline Levitt also made this claim.
They had to correct and take down their entire story, saying we reviewed the footage and couldn't find any evidence of anything.
This isn't true. The BBC didn't take down any of its coverage on this story. The articles remain online. And Caroline Levitt attributed this false claim to what she called a review of footage. That appears to be a reference to this BBC Verified live page post that looked at a widely shared video that some were claiming showed events near the aid centre. Using geolocation, BBC Verified confirmed that the video actually showed a different event, several kilometres away. This wasn't a BBC video being assessed, it wasn't a retraction, it wasn't a BBC admission of error. The live page post had been highlighted by the same X account Caroline Levitt had referenced. It misrepresented what BBC Verify had done. The White House then repeated the misrepresentation. For its part, the BBC says it stands by its journalism and has called once again to be allowed access to Gaza. Having made this range of false claims, Caroline Levitt had a further point to make.
We're going to look into reports before we confirm them from this podium or before we take action. And I suggest that journalists who actually care about truth do the same to reduce the amount of misinformation that's going around the globe on this front.
But in this case, either the White House didn't look into its claims about the BBC before bringing them to the podium, or had no concern that they weren't true.
How arrogant can you be, Caroline Levitt, to stand up there and we're going to check things first when you didn't even check a Twitter account that advanced a lie? These people are despicable. I keep telling y'all how trifling they are, and she is the chief liar. And just because she's convincing lying does not make her right. Oh, she is a convincing liar. Oh, she speaks with an authoritative voice. She is confident in her line, but Caroline Levitt is a damn liar. That's what she is, Michael.
Oh, absolutely. And she is the spokesperson for the liar-in-chief who the Washington Post documented in his first term in office, told over 30,000 lies and false and misleading statements. And yeah, it really is. It takes a lot of unmitigated gall to stand there and try to chastise the media when she's up here speaking, representing for Mr. 200 trade deals. Donald Trump, who claimed they've made 200 trade deals in the last few months. Okay, where is that? And then it's commonplace when you have a breaking news story. I've been in media 15 years. Okay, it's commonplace when you have a breaking news story to constantly update the news story as you get more information. That's why when we're on live, you refresh your screen multiple times for breaking news stories. So this is what the BBC did, but I'm glad they put this fact check out. Hopefully that fact check goes viral, okay, to hold her accountable. And this is what you have to do with liars like this who use their position in the government to perpetuate false information.
Tyler, I'm looking for this video. Michael talked about these trade deals. That was this on Fox News, one of these trade. If you want to laugh about this here, hold on one second. Let me see if I can find the video. Because Bill Hemmer was interviewing one of these lying fools with Trump's administration, and the guy was talking about the trade deals, and we're going to be signing these, and even Bill Hemmer was like, okay, well, can you name one? And the guy's like, I can't do that right now. These people literally are insane. Matter of fact, okay, I found the video. Hold on one second. Let me pull this up. Y'all, this is, I was like, but they've been telling us now for weeks, we've got 7,500. We got 1,000 companies, 1,000 countries trying to reach us to do trade deals. Can you name one? No, I can't really name one. But it's happening. It's happening. Listen to this, y'all.
Who goes first, if anyone, as of today?
You mean who goes first in terms of countries?
In a new deal, correct.
Yeah, so there's a number of deals in the works. Our trading partners, particularly in Asia and in Europe as well. And, I expect that these deals to come out in a flurry as we get closer to the deadline. Some might come out very soon, but I expect there to be a flurry as we get closer to the deadline because of the process in which these deals are proceeding, where there's steps that everyone is taking to move the deal forward. And those steps are designed to yield success around the time of the deadline.
Got it. So I'm just, I mean to interrupt, but every time we do these segments, I'm just trying to find the name of a country. Who will be first in line? Can we say today which country that will be?
I cannot. I'm not.
While screaming socialism.
No, I can't. Tyler, I can't name one.
And look, I think that in itself tells how we are the laughing stock of the world. I mean, when we got the press secretary and folks that are supposed to be leading our country who can't even name a country of that instance, or even tell the truth behind the press secretary's desk. And I think it just shows how fragile our democracy is and how of a laughing stock we are. Elections have consequences, and it's sad to see what we're looking at. We are a laughing stock.
These folks lie and lie and lie, Matt. They just lie.
They do, but what's scary is they've lied enough and created an environment enough where people don't believe things or don't have critical thinking, right? The idea that the BBC would continuously update its coverage with new information should be something that is understood, right? Just simply, that's how it works in journalism, at least as far as I can tell. You get new information, you update it. But to characterize it as though they were wrong all the times before is part and parcel with the kind of disinformation and the kind of attack on truth and creation of alternative facts that we've seen them do since the first Trump administration. And it's effective to the group of people that they're talking to in making them question everything. It's really ridiculous. And frankly, it is part and parcel with exactly what we saw with COVID. During COVID, I remember being baffled that there wasn't like a basic understanding of the scientific method. You remember during that time, Fauci would get on TV and say, we've learned this one thing. It's changed our position or our opinion. We're now thinking this. Well, it was characterized like that was emblematic of them not being good scientists, rather than that being a part of how science works. You get new evidence, you change your position. So similar to that, this is the kind of thing that you see. You see attack on truth and the attack on the evolution of information via, what's reported. So, I mean, it's sad that it's coming out of the White House, an officially sanctioned part of our United States government that should be giving people good information, but it's part and parcel with what Trump has done since the first time he was in office.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
A black Florida sheriff and the state attorney general are at odds on the issue of arresting immigrants. Attorney General James Oldheimer sent a letter to Broward County Sheriff Gregory Toney following the sheriff's comments about not prioritizing the arrest of immigrants during a commission meeting last week. Check this out.
Some of the things that other sheriffs in this state has participated in and increasing availability of manpower to execute some of these responsibilities that fall under immigrations, we are not. There has been a submittal of requests. The governor wanted to see all sheriffs participate in this one program, 287G, which was related to the inmate processing components, and we've always been in compliance with that. Then there was a pivot point to have deputies participate in 287G task force, whereas now it's the law enforcement apparatus that is out in the field and increasing the operational tempo for customs, meaning 20 deputies are assigned, let's say in Sarasota, to this particular task force. And those deputies are now basically operating under the will or so the partnership of immigration. I've dedicated the 2 people that's always been there. I've not increased that. We have other priorities in this community that I'm focused on, and immigration is not one of them. Not to dismiss the importance of that, but we have had case after case just a few months ago to speak about why it's important for us as law enforcement practitioners to focus on the criminal components, not administrative components when it comes to immigration. I don't care what country you're from. If you commit a crime in this country or commit a crime in this county, I'm coming for you. But what I refuse to do is take this notion that we need to be knocking on doors or arresting children or going into daycare centers or restaurants and taking and snatching people off these streets who have been paying taxes and contributing to this society in some positive form, regardless if they're a U.S. citizen or not. It's not within our purview, it's not within our responsibility, and I won't participate in it. This is something that has alarmed this community repeatedly, and I've been crystal clear, and I have not wavered in my stance in the last 6 years, and I won't.
The Youth Miles letter orders Toney to comply with the efforts of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Larry, your thoughts?
Yeah, Roland, it's a lot going on down here in the state of Florida. And so, a lot of the sheriffs down here gleefully signed on when they get involved in a lot of these ICE raids. And if you listen to what the sheriff said, what he had to say is completely reasonable. We also have to highlight that he as sheriff, he also serves a very diverse immigrant population. So and we're talking about individuals who voted for him. So this back and forth between, the AG, the state AG, and the sheriff is really based on the fact that he is not as gung-ho as some of the other sheriffs down here in the state. But once again, his point is practical. He's saying if you're a criminal, then we'll come after you. But what he's also saying is they're not going to be kicking doors into homes of individuals who haven't committed a crime. Once again, to quote him, that pay taxes. And Roland, this also relates to, he points to education. We're increasingly seeing ICE agents go to public schools, elementary schools in some cases, seeking to talk to young people. So his point is that we're not going to look for law-abiding individuals, and we're certainly not going to be kicking in the door to elementary, middle, high schools to snatch kids out of school. And then, like I said, I use the term black box in terms of the last segment. But he's just saying, what he's saying is practical. If you break the law, I'm coming after you. Otherwise, if you live in a community, you're being productive, I'm not going to bother you. But down here, that is not enough. Once again, I made the point about power. They want a far more, stronger commitment from sheriffs throughout the state to make sure that if you're a child or a woman who has, taken care of small children or a father, that they don't care. If they grab you, that's it. They'll send you to Louisiana or some far country. But the bottom line is what the sheriff said is it's not radical, but in the state of Florida, it is.
What we're seeing, Tydick, again, we know in this state, we saw when Ron DeSantis removed three DAs, if you will, because they said of what they were not going to prosecute. This is what these folks do. And I wouldn't be shocked if they try to move on this duly elected black sheriff.
Absolutely. And I think even as you just pointed out, sheriffs are elected by the people. They're not appointed by the government. And when communities, especially communities of color, organize and demand that their local law enforcement, protect them rather than tear them apart, as an elected official, I think the sheriff has a duty to listen. I don't think it's about politics, but it's really about prioritizing their community safety. And as mentioned before, if they're not doing anything that causes harm to the community, then they should be left alone. And I think even understanding the track record of ICE in itself, having the long track record of abuse, of racial profiling, of violating people's civil rights, especially in a community of black and brown folks where distress is already a major issue. And I think the sheriff saying no to ICE is honestly saying yes to the due process and dignity of public safety. And I think it's commendable, and I wish more local officials would heed to the concerns and the voices of the folks in their community.
Oh, but here's the deal, Mustafa. They don't give a damn about people who are duly elected, and they don't care if they have their own opinions. They want to tell them what to do. That's what Ron DeSantis does. That's what his attorney general is doing. So they don't care that this sheriff has made his own decision as to how he is going to run his office, which is what he was elected to do.
Exactly, and he's doing the right thing. We all know that many law enforcement have limited income, so that means that you have to prioritize. So then you should take a look and ask the question, where is the crime happening, so that we can deploy the needed individuals to be able to address that. So there are numerous studies that are out there that show that folks who are undocumented do significantly less crime than those who are documented or those who are citizens here in this country. So based upon that premise, which is rooted in fact, then Ron DeSantis should be great. Should be very, very thankful that you have a sheriff who's willing to stand up and say, wherever crime is, I'm going to deal with it, but I'm not going to take resources away from the areas that I'm trying to serve and protect.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself, and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
All across the country, the parents of students enrolled in Job Corps, folks 18 to 24, have been shocked and stunned as their children have been released from the program, literally ordered to come pick their stuff up after Donald Trump whacked the Department of Labor's budget. Well, last night, a judge stayed that decision. Congresswoman Maxine Waters had this to say outside of one of those centers.
I care about you. I care about children who don't have any place to sleep at night, who are sleeping out of their cars, trying to go to school, trying to go to Job Corps. I care about mothers who don't know where the next food is going to come from. I care about fathers who are crying because they can't get employed. They're discriminated against. I get this. I understand this. And if I sound a little mad and angry, hell, I know how to be angry. I know how to be nice, but I know how to be angry too. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just got to show it. And sometimes you got to make believers out of people and let them know that you're not going to take it sitting down, that you're in this fight. We are in this fight, and we're not going to stop. Trump thinks he's a king. He thinks he can do anything he wants to. And of course, he's in the West Wing of the White House. He's the President of the United States. The President can do, I guess, whatever they want to, because the Constitution doesn't list all the things they can't do. And so he used executive orders. But it is the people who will determine what he really does, based on how you're going to deal with all of these executive orders that he's doing that would cause people to be poor, to be not healthy. Medicaid, all of this is involved. Head Start is involved. Everything is involved. If the people turn out, if the people show up, we can be there. Do you understand that? Yeah. Are you willing to do that? Yeah. All right, let's kick it.
Folks, last night, a New York judge issued a temporary restraining order preventing the administration from shutting down the program. And of course, you see it right here. It says that it is further ordered that defendants, their agents, and all persons acting in concert or participation with defendants are enjoined from enforcing, implementing, maintaining, or giving effect to the elimination of the Job Corps program, including the stop work orders and termination and non-renewal notices delivered to Job Corps center operators starting May 29th, 2025. Joining us right now is Congresswoman Maxine Waters. Always glad to have you on the show, Congresswoman. It was very interesting, Congresswoman. Earlier in the week, I played a video of this black conservative out of Georgia who he was one of the folks who was skinning and grinning at the White House for Trump's Black History Month reception. And he posts, he goes by the name King Randall. And it was quite interesting because he posted this video complaining about the program cuts. I thought it was quite hilarious because if you listen to what he has to say, Congresswoman, it's amazing who he never mentioned while he was saying it. So listen to this.
Job Corps is closing here in the city of Albany, and that leaves us with a little over 500 students that were here on this campus, and 19% of those students are labeled as homeless. We have a little over 250 jobs that'll be leaving the city of Albany. And while this is not the city of Albany government's fault, this is a time for our local and state leadership to step up, because we'd be stupid to act powerless in this situation. Because while this school is still here, while this building is still here, while this campus is still here, what could this become? Could this become a Southwest Georgia regional hub for trade skills training? Could this become something major that the city brings on to start training workforce? Because if we're training workforce, then we can invite industry to come here. But if we don't have any workforce for industry, they'll never come. But if Doherty County School System could train workforce in adults, why can't the city of Albany do the same thing? So my question to leadership is, are we going to allow this opportunity now to pass us by, or are we going to lead? Are our leaders going to lead? And if they don't want to lead, they need to step aside and let somebody else do it.
I just found that to be quite hilarious, Congresswoman. It's because he says, while it's not the city of Albany, Georgia's fault this is happening, but he never mentions whose fault it is. He never mentions Trump. He never mentions that he was the one who cut the program. Not anywhere in there did he argue for the program needed to be restored. The money needed to be restored. Made the argument as to why. And see, that's my problem with these black MAGA people who I call the help. It's amazing how they love to say black people who voted for Vice President Kamala Harris on the plantation, but they get real quiet when stuff happens to black people. And when it comes to the Job Corps program, half of the people in Job Corps are African American.
Absolutely. And either they are extraordinarily ignorant or they're being dishonest. They know, I believe they know where these cuts are coming from. For those who want to identify with Trump, they're willing to say or do whatever it takes in order to be embraced by him. But listen, let me tell you something. This strike against children is absolutely unconscionable. I heard someone mention, I think it was he, what percentage of the students that he was talking about are homeless. When I was at the Job Corps, one of the things that the supervisor told me there was that the majority of those students are homeless. And she does not want to try and put them in some kind of temporary program and be with older adults and all of that. Well, you know what I'm saying? What I'm telling them, let's fight. I mean, let's put up the fight. She said they want us out of here. I said, no, let's get our pillows and our blankets and let's move in and let's not move. The lease has been paid for. And it will be sitting there empty if Job Corps does not utilize it. And so when I talk about sitting in, laying in, I'm talking about doing the kind of work we did and you did when we were fighting against apartheid. We sat in, we got arrested, we did whatever it took. This is the only thing the opposition will understand. This is the only thing that Trump will understand. And so, as I told them, I'm in this fight. And I mentioned to them, I'm from St. Louis. I came from a family of 13 children. I understand what poverty is all about. I understand what it is not to know exactly what's going to happen to you, whether or not you're going to have a place to live, et cetera, et cetera. So we got to fight. We got to be in the street. We've got to be willing to take it on with everything that we have.
You talked about homeless. This is a tweet from a woman. She posted this. She said, Job Corps actually saved my life. I was at the end of the road and had nowhere else to turn to. I couldn't afford to finish college. I was homeless at 17, working meaningless part-time jobs. This is the reality for so many people at Job Corps. And of course, she posted these photos right here of her being in the Job Corps. And let's be perfectly clear, Job Corps had some problems. There were some significant problems that had to be addressed. But is it smart to completely shut something down, or do you try to fix it?
Well, you know the answer to that. Whenever you are organizing big operations, there are going to be problems. There are going to be mistakes. There's going to be all kinds of obstacles that get in the way of being able to do big things. Job Corps is a big thing. Started in 1964 under Lyndon Baines Johnson. It has turned so many people around. It has helped so many young people. It has created new opportunities to get back in school, to have a career, to look forward to being able to earn a living and a living for your family and all of that. And so Trump is out to undermine our success, the success of people of color and Black people in particular, and brown people, et cetera. He has made it very clear. He has literally pinpointed and focused on those things that help us to get out of poverty, help us to be educated, help us to be successful, help us to get training in the new technology. He's focused on all of these things. It's clear that when he talks about MAGA, he talks about taking back this country, he's talking about putting his foot on our necks and holding us down and making sure that we don't continue to progress. That's what it's all about. You can't paint this any other way. It is not about, a different philosophy about, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. That's a bunch of crap. It's about whether or not you have opportunity, whether or not you're treated fairly, whether or not, what goes on in the selection of individuals, whether it's to enter jobs or to move up or to be on the board. It's about whether or not you're going to be fair and you're going to look at people in different ways instead of looking and saying that person doesn't deserve this job. I don't want that person to have this job. I'm a racist. I'm against people of color being equal to me, as some whites would say. And so, Roland, we know this fight. You've been in this fight. And we know that we've got to confront it even in stronger ways than perhaps was confronted in the past. Thank God for the civil rights movement that taught us to hit the street, to taught us to be able to take the blows. Now, I want to tell you, Dr. Martin Luther King was a wonderful human being, practiced nonviolence. We're not a violent people. Trump is trying to goad us into violence. He is trying to get us into a point of anger and disgust that we hit the streets in a way that he can call in, the National Guard and be involved in, civil war. I know what he's trying to do. And so we've got to be smart. We've got to know how to fight. We've got to know how to articulate and identify what's wrong, who's the cause of it, but we can't be goaded into the kind of fight that he would turn the guns on us. I get it. I understand it.
When you look at polling, when you look at how people are answering questions, they're saying that Democrats are not meeting the moment. What you're saying is this has to escalate. What are you saying to Democratic leader Jeffries? What are you saying to Senator Chuck Schumer? What are you saying to the head of the DNC, Ken Martin? Because it seems as if that what they are doing is not resonating with people. When I hear people talk about fighters, I hear them mention your name. They mention AOC. They mention Jasmine Crockett. They mention Ayanna Pressley. And there is this feeling among lots of people. And I can tell you, I hear from lots of African Americans. They don't think that Democrats are doing enough to fight this fascist. They're saying that how could you call someone a fascist, but then show up to his speech on March 4th joint sessions of Congress? How could you show up to his inauguration? So if that person is really a fascist, then you respond accordingly. Do you think that Democratic leaders should be doing more? And if so, exactly what?
Well, let me just say this. I kind of alluded to the fact that government is always not understood. And people don't really understand that there's nothing in the Constitution that says the president can't do whatever he wants to do. And that's what we got to get into people's head, is that the president of the United States of America, with these executive orders, are trying to undermine the Constitution. He's trying to do away with laws that have been made. And so we've got to fight them in the ways that we can. One of the things that members of Congress are doing, we all are holding town hall meetings in our districts and talking to people and explaining to them what is happening and trying to get them into the struggle to hit the streets. We can't just do it sitting at home and going on the internet. We've got to go back to some of the tactics that were used in the civil rights movement. Hakeem Jeffries is hitting the streets every weekend. He leaves here, he's raising money, so we have the money to fight them with. They are rich. They are billionaires. They've got all of this money and all of that literature and all of the time that they buy on television. People are believing the lies that they hear because they are constant. They hear these lies over and over again. The only way to overcome that is to raise money also and put the literature out, buy the time, and defy them and tell people the truth. So we have roles to play. The roles to play is members of Congress, use your platforms, talk, explain, teach, raise money. And for those of us who are willing to hit the streets, let's join them in hitting the streets. Let's get people to the town hall meeting. It is not as if Democrats are not doing anything. Democrats know that we've got things to do. Much of it costs a lot of money, and that money comes only if we work hard for it, we convince certain people, we beg for it, we leverage for it. But the billionaires who run with Trump are not going to get that money to us. And so we've got to tell not only our people, but the so-called progressives and liberals and all of those out there who are philosophically in line with us that they've got to raise this money, because this is part of the struggle. Raising the money, putting the town halls together, on the street, doing the protests, getting your ministers to hold meetings so that they educate the people about the importance of the vote. We've got to look at the vote coming up. That's how we get rid of Trump. That's how we get rid of the right-wing conservatives. We got to vote. And we got to get people to do it. So all of this is a combination of work that not everybody sees. And when they say Democrats are not doing enough, they think, for example, we can arrest the president. We can't do it. They think, for example, that them having the majority does not count. Them having the majority means they stop our bills. But that's okay. We keep coming up with legislation because we're getting ready to have our legislation passed by the next president. We're getting ready to take over the primaries. We're doing all of these things. It's not any one thing. And it's not that you don't hear Hakeem Jeffries calling somebody SOB. I do that. I call them SOBs. You raise the money, and I'll do that, and I'll get in the street, and I will organize, I will protest, I will help to get people angry enough that they want to do something and resist what is going on now and get to the polls and vote so that we can take this country back from this low-down, dirty, no good, ornery man that now has the presidency.
All right, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, always great to have you. And listen, and please do me this favor. And this goes back even to my 2 shows on TV1. I have consistently said to the Congressional Black Caucus, to the last 5, 6 chairs, I say to the communications people that we will make space for a Black Caucus member every single day on this show. But you know what the reality is? Only 4 or 5, maybe 6 consistently say yes. And so when I hear people, then what angers me, Congresswoman, is when I see CBC members run to MSNBC, but then don't decide to come do this show. I keep trying to tell them they're not gonna always call you. We will, I made it clear, we will put a member on every single day we're live. All they got to do is say yes. So please let them know that. Because again, I mean, if the people never see folks on a consistent basis, they assume you're not doing anything.
That's right. You're absolutely right. I will remind our caucus. I will keep doing it. A lot of people are not comfortable. They want to say the right thing. They want to look right. They want to be sure that they're not going to, say what was not meant to be said in public. But you got to free yourself. And you got to give yourself permission to be whomever you think you are. And you got to say it, whether or not it is right or wrong at the time that you do it, you got to let it come out. And that's what some people have not learn how to do. But I'm going to tell them, you feel comfortable with Roland Martin. He wants you on the show. It's an opportunity for you to talk truth to power. And so we want you to go. I'm going to do everything that I can to encourage that. Thank you so much.
And the last piece here, you can tell them this here. YouTube now has a weekly listing of the top 100 podcasts. And this podcast is in the top 50, and it is the only Black news podcast on the top 100. So if they think nobody's watching, let them know they're wrong.
I think they know it even if they haven't said it. Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Robert, I want to go to you. I mean, there are issues with the program. That report was done talking about a lot of these issues. But when you're dealing with troubled youth, you're going to have troubles that comes with it. But then you got this fool running around here. Somebody, matter of fact, there are different clips. Somebody posted this clip here. Here's this fool in the Oval Office. This is when him and Elon were getting along, talking about how we need to be shifting money to trade schools. Listen to what the fool says.
Every 3 days we find another $100 million that was given. 2 days ago we found $200 million more. The money's given to them like gravy. I'd like to see the money go to trade schools, where people learn how to fix motors and engines, where people learn how to build rocket ships, because, you know, somebody has to build those rocket ships. Yeah. And I'd like to see trade schools set up, because you could take $5 billion plus hundreds of billions more, which is what's spent, and you could have the greatest trade school system anywhere in the world. And that's what.
So you're saying, but you just whacked the trade school.
I want people to understand something when President Trump says things. He's lying. I don't know how many times people have to see this and realize this. He's not telling the truth. And a couple of things on this point, that when we're talking about cutting this program for fiscal reasons, for budgetary reasons, this Republican quote unquote big beautiful bill, which is really a big brutal lie, the BBL instead of the BBB bill, what we're really talking about is we're financing billionaires. We are saying that in order to pay for the moon mission that Elon wants to send off, we have to cut things like Job Corps. My little brother went to Job Corps. I've seen Job Corps change the lives of dozens of individuals who had no direction, who come out with skills. Now, the fact that we are cutting into these programs and SNAP programs and Meals on Wheels and the social safety net, while at the same time saying we're going to build a new F-47 and we're going to double the size of the Navy fleet, and we want to build an F-55, and we want to build a B-21 that costs $1 billion a piece. I think the American people have to understand that this is the time to stand up. As Congresswoman Waters just said, Dr. King could stand up to LBJ, to Strom Thurmond, to Bull Connor. Jesse Jackson could stand up to Ronald Reagan, to George W. Bush, and to everybody else. But we're somehow cowering at the feet of Donald Trump and Mike Johnson. That's where we're simply saying that we do not have the fight in us. Just 5 years ago, we just had the anniversary of the beginning of the George Floyd summer. We were in the street en masse. We were changing laws. We were changing the global conversation around our issues around police shootings. Donald Trump is creating a George Floyd moment 3 or 4 times a day with the programs that he is cutting and what he's doing to destroy Black America. So it's time for us to realize that in this moment, they will do everything to distract us, everything to discourage us. But we have a history going back thousands of years to standing up to the powerful and deciding that this will be the moment that we will not take one step further back. And that has to happen now. We must, in the Senate, do everything that we can to kill this BBL Republican budget, which is only meant to destroy Black and brown communities.
Nola?
You know, the first thing that runs through my mind, today a report came out that 247,000 people alone in 1 week applied for unemployment.
Yep.
So what's going to happen to those young kids that don't have anywhere to go? You know, of the 4 or 5 buckets that they listed as to why they're getting rid of Job Corps, one of the reasons was security concerns. So, you know, as a security person, I am here to tell you, when you take opportunities away from a population, all that's going to do is increase the risk of having more security concerns. So the list of lies that he's, you know, that he's rolling out, and I think that are coming to him pretty much as he goes. He makes policy on the fly. They just don't hold up. But this unemployment issue, Roland, this is going to be a very real thing. And this government is not set up to handle it. They do not know how to govern. And all of this boomerang is going to come back and hit them in the face very quickly, because there's no plan. The only plan is to destroy anything that has to do with Black people. His vengeance against us is so severe that it literally, you know, they talk about the Trump derangement syndrome. He clearly has some sort of Black people derangement syndrome, because I literally think this man goes to sleep thinking about us, wakes up thinking about us, and how he can hurt us, because what he does know is how we vote. So this is a punishment for how we vote, especially for Black women, because in that unemployment group, Black women right now, the most highly educated in the country, we are now among the most highly unemployed. So all of this is going to add up. And on the other side of the equal sign, it's going to be very ugly because they are not prepared for what's going to come.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
So it was a little drama between Senator Cory Booker and Senator Ted Cruz in the U.S. Senate this week. Yo, I can't help but not play it.
I would make two brief observations. Number one, it is interesting as our Democrat colleagues defend these nationwide injunctions that neither of them made any reference to the fact that the number of nationwide injunctions issued in the first 4 months is greater than the entire 20th century and is greater than all of the nationwide injunctions issued against Bush, Obama, and Biden combined, nor did they address the disturbing fact that of the 40 universal injunctions that have been issued in the last 4 months, 35 of them came from the same 5 judicial districts. There is a reason for this. Blue state attorneys general and radical leftist groups are seeking out affirmatively radical judges who they know will impose their own policy preferences. If it were simply, as our Democrat colleagues said, judges following the law, then you wouldn't have to keep going to the same radical judges over and over and over again, because judges across the board should do that. But the litigants know exactly who the zealots are that are on the bench, and that's who they are seeking out. I will also point out that the discussion about the urgency of protecting the safety of judges. Listen, I agree. We should protect the safety of every federal judge, but it is interesting because my Democrat colleagues were utterly silent during 4 years of the Biden administration when you had violent mobs outside the homes of Supreme Court justices unhappy with the Supreme Court's ruling in Dobbs, and the Biden Justice Department refused to enforce federal law and protect the justices. And my Democrat colleagues were perfectly happy with Supreme Court justices being threatened if they disliked the rulings that were coming from the Supreme Court justices. Unlike my colleagues, I believe we should protect judges regardless of whether I agree with them or not. We should protect their safety. And every time you hear a Democrat senator talk about protecting judges from acts of violence, you ought to ask them, why did they not have a word to say about the Biden Justice Department allowing mobs to threaten the families and children of Supreme Court justices night after night after night while Biden's Attorney General refused to follow the law? And with that,
Mr. Chairman, would you indulge me for a moment?
We indulge you every moment.
I appreciate that act of generosity. It's just something you said that I think is actually dangerous and should be addressed, and you're welcome. But when Judge Anderol was killed in New Jersey, the Republican colleagues in the Senate, their outpouring of support, their outpouring of concern, they're willing to work together on a bipartisan bill was extraordinary. It shows the truth of this institution that despite some of the fiery rhetoric that you were sowing, we're we're really a bipartisan, working bipartisanship. Cornyn and Coons, after the incidents you're talking about, got together and actually passed a bill to better protect our Supreme Court justices, many of whom are friends of ours. You know, Gorsuch and I disagree on a lot of stuff. I knew his wife before he did. We studied together at Oxford. This implication that there was silence when there were threats on their people's houses is absolutely absurd. I remember the rhetoric and the comments, the concern from Coons. I actually distinctly remember you, Chairman, on more than once condemning those attacks on Republican-appointed jurists. To say things like that feeds just the partisanship in this institution and feeds the fiery rhetoric. And it's just plain not true. It's just plain not true. And I think you know that, but we can pull from the record from my colleagues in real time, literally days afterwards, condemning it. There's a lot of substantive things to say here, but to think that the lack of humanity when people's homes are being threatened was not in existence, I think that's unfair and really concerns me that you would say that in the way that you did.
Well, I thank my colleague from New Jersey. I will note, as John Adams observed, that facts are stubborn things. And it is existing federal law, 18 U.S.C. Section 1507, that makes it a crime to protest at a judge's home. And the law provides whoever with the intent of interfering with, obstructing, or impeding the administration of justice, or with the intent or of influencing any judge, juror, witness, or court officer in the discharge of his duty, pickets or parades in or near a building housing a court of the United States, in or near a building or residence occupied or used by such judge, juror, witness, or court officer, or with such intent uses any sound truck or similar device or resorts to any other demonstration in or near any such building or residence, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. That is federal criminal law. Night after night after night, angry mobs were outside the Supreme Court justices' homes, and in the entire course of it, the Biden Justice Department prosecuted nobody. We had the Attorney General sitting at that table, and multiple Republican senators asked him, why are you not enforcing the law? What they are doing is a crime. And my friend from New Jersey said, it is a lie to say we, the Democrats, condone this. I would challenge, my friend, find a single Democrat senator on this committee holding the Attorney General to account for not enforcing this law. I was here at those hearings, and I do not recall a single Democrat senator saying to the Attorney General, you should arrest these people who are violating the law. You should protect the judges. I agree that there was general language against violence, but not a single Democrat senator that I ever saw in this committee was willing to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland to account for flagrantly disregarding the federal criminal law because the Biden administration agreed with the protesters and I think wanted those justices harassed at their home.
I really appreciate that you've now shifted the accusation you made earlier. Your accusation was that we were silent in the face of protests at Supreme Court justices' homes. Again, we joined together in a bipartisan way, not only to condemn that, but to pass legislation to extend round-the-clock security protection, literally days. It was introduced May 5th, passed the Senate in a bipartisan fashion on May 9th. So if you're saying that we didn't criticize
Did the
Merrick
Biden
Garland,
DOJ arrest a single person under this law?
You are now changing the
No, that is what I said. That is what I said.
Again, I'll pull the record.
Did the Biden DOJ arrest even one?
Again.
The answer is no.
My point to you is the accusation that the Democrats on this committee do not care about the safety of federal judges. I did not interrupt you, sir. I would appreciate if you let me finish. I am sick and tired of hearing the kind of heated partisan rhetoric, which is one of the reasons why we have such divisions in this country. The attacks we see from the President of the United States of America trolling and dragging judges through is what we should be talking about, that puts people in danger. I'm simply taking issue with the claim that you made at the top that people on the Democratic side of the aisle do not care about the safety and the security of judges and said nothing. You said we were silent after people's houses were protested. That is a patent lie, sir. We were not silent. We took action. We joined in a bipartisan way to protect those judges, as was done in a bipartisan way to protect a New Jersey judge after their horrific attack at their home. So I see you now trying to shift the debate to whether we talk to an attorney general. I'm simply taking issue with this accusation that somehow we Democrats are so bad because we don't call out threats to our to our judicial colleagues. And that is wrong. You could change the argument now that you want, but what you said was patently not true and was, in fact, a patent lie.
So I do enjoy the fact that my colleague from New Jersey raises his voice and says it's a patent lie and says he's doing so in defense of lowering the rhetoric. There is some irony to doing those two together. I'll point out that in the entire course of those remarks, Senator Booker did not dispute the central point I made, which is the Biden Justice Department arrested 0 people, prosecuted 0 people for violating the criminal law, and every Democrat senator on this committee was silent about it. And this was an ongoing pattern for months. And I would note also that the senator from New Jersey clutched his pearls about language threatening judges, and yet I do not recall a single Democrat senator of this committee saying a word when Chuck Schumer went to the steps of the Supreme Court and threatened the safety of the Supreme Court justices by name, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and he said, "You have unleashed the whirlwind and you will pay the price." And not a single Democrat senator had a word to say about this. And so their outrage is selective. And I will give my colleague from New Jersey a chance to just answer a simple yes-no question. Should the Biden Justice Department have enforced the criminal law against protesting at a justice's home? Yes or no?
So the rank hypocrisy of Chuck Schumer apologizing the next day and you holding that standard for him and not for your president, who you actually rightfully described when you were running against him in a primary. I would love to run those tapes of how you perfectly talked about the danger of our president and his rhetoric. But now you are failing, in fact, blind to the very things you're accusing Chuck Schumer of. I don't think Donald Trump would know an apology if it hit him in the head. Never has said apologizing. So again, you are very, very, sir, very, very deep into the waters of hypocrisy in your criticisms of Chuck Schumer.
So let the record reflect that Spartacus did not answer the question and did not tell us whether the criminal law should be enforced, because he knows the answer is yes. And he knows that the Biden Department of Justice was being wildly political and partisan in refusing to enforce the law because they disagreed with the Supreme Court justices' rulings.
It's without a doubt that Ted Cruz is one of the most pathetic, despicable individuals that serves in the United States Senate. He is an asshole, and it is shameful that I have to deal with him being the junior senator from Texas because he has no integrity, no honor, no decency. And yes, the things that he said about Donald Trump were absolutely true. And if there's anybody that has sold their soul out to Donald Trump, it is Ted Cruz. And so that's why I wanted to show that blathering idiot on today's show.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself, and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Now, you know, when these things happen, we try to have some care and compassion for people who are being impacted by these ICE raids and what Trump is doing. But if you are a Latino for Trump, I literally don't care what happens to you. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Sorry. But remember the viral video and brother was like, it's above me now. That's really the position that I'm taking. I have zero compassion, zero concern, zero empathy for anybody who was a Latino for Trump supporter. And your ass now in trouble. Here's what I mean. Have y'all seen this story? Cuban activist Hector Luis Valdez Cocho. He founded Latinos for Trump and he rallied voters for Trump in Florida. His ass is now sitting in the ICE detention facility and likely is going to get deported back to Cuba. Now, Florida Senator Elena Garcia, also Latinos for Trump, blasting these roundups as intolerable, inhumane, and wrong, and this is not fair. Rebecca, all I have for them are thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts, prayers, salutations. I mean, you hate to see it, but not really. I mean, like, what are we doing here? This is so bizarre for people to think, oh, it's going to be everybody else but me. They supported a strong man, and now they're understanding what is a strong man, and it's not Hector.
Joe, I can't. I mean, I'm trying right now be Christ-like.
Oh, Jesus was petty.
But I'm not.
It's not like Jesus wasn't petty. Didn't Jesus turn some behind at the church?
Hashtag we tried to tell you, Joe. Joe, I've got nothing for him. I just don't. Sorry.
Here's where I split it up. I'm still a Christian guy and try to be Christ-like. I come up short all the time, and I'll tell people when I do. And that being said, do I have some compassion for the families of people, the families that are connected to stupid people that make stupid decisions? Yeah, on some level. That being said, that doesn't mean that I get to save you from every consequence, right? You know, I really got free. Let's talk about being free and what freedom really means. Freedom really means that you can't always save people from their stupidity. That's what that means. So listen, I'm gonna try to help. You know, I'm suing people. I'm already, getting calls about, people in different situations or whatever else, even though I'm not really an immigration guy. But on some level, in my world, we have to prioritize, not only talking about legal world, just in social, your social circles or whatever else. You have to prioritize people that did what they could to help themselves. People make mistakes all the time, but this right here is walking into the street when you know that a car is coming and you think that somehow you're going to evade it, like you're going to walk through it or something, like this is Ghost, you the Ghost Whisperer or something. No, this was going to happen. You could see that this was going to happen. And so therefore, what that means is that in the prioritization of my responsibilities and my priorities, I don't trip as much as I would. Now, I still am concerned about some of the larger constitutional implications, doing things without due process, et cetera, and we'll be there on that front. That being said, there's 24 hours in a day. I need about 8 of it to sleep, and I'm going to. And I'm not as sympathetic as I could be for those that saw something coming or knew or should have known, as we say in the law, and still voted for him anyway. And hey, that's where I need help. Pray for me.
I want to associate myself with Joe. Joe, you speak for me. I struggle here. I want to be empathetic, and I am. But they made a huge mistake.
I just want y'all to know this is my position with Hector.
You just can't always keep people.
I'm just letting y'all know. Matter of fact, if I could get my eye mask, this is me with Hector. If my 2 phones were ringing and Hector was calling, it'd be on do not disturb.
Right.
Go ahead, Joey. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just don't. Go on.
It's not just Hector. There's some Haitians in Florida who made a bad choice as well, and we see what's happening to them. There are some people who felt like we're different from African Americans, and whatever, and they went a different way. Everybody effed around, and they're going to find out. And while I certainly am going to help where I can, I'm going to start with, African Americans first. With, I just have to, because resources are limited. Resources are limited, and like Joe, like Rebecca, I gotta focus where my energies are both respected and welcomed, and deserved. But anything that might spill out to the rest of us, we have to prioritize that. So to the extent that's true, absolutely. And let me just say to all protesters, no matter where you are, and I know this is controversial, but your goal is to convince Americans to be with you. Fly the American flag at your protests. Don't fly the Mexican flag. Make sure that you are, unfortunately, you're going to have to look at what we did.
Hell no, damn that, Joy. No, hell no, Joy. If them punk asses flew the Confederate flag and the Trump flag on January 6th, hell, fly your Mexican flag, fly your Venezuelan flag, fly your Costa Rican flag, damn them. No, I have no interest in appeasing these punk asses. If you are Haitian, fly your Haitian flag. If you are from Bermuda, fly your Bermudan flag. If you are from Sudan, if you are from Chad, if you are from the Congo, if you are from Sierra Leone, you from any of these countries, fly your flag. Because guess what? Them goddamn Irish folks fly their flag. We don't say shit on St. Patrick's Day. No, hell no. I'm not appeasing these racists. I ain't appeasing these damn racists. I don't care. I ain't appeasing. Listen, they don't even like the Puerto Rican. They don't even like. See, no. See, y'all talking about optics. They don't give a damn. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Every protester could be dripped in American hat, shirt, T-shirt, underwear, socks, shoes, jeans, and they will still deport their ass. That don't mean a damn. Listen, these fools are sending back No, you ain't. No, let me tell you something right now. You can't convince them. See, Joy, that's what I'm trying to get you. Just say, damn respectability politics. You cannot convince them because they don't care. They are sending back Afghans who helped us win in Afghanistan. They are sending, they don't care. That's what we got to understand. Donald Trump and MAGA doesn't care. They don't care.
Trump and MAGA. You're not trying to convince Trump and MAGA.
No.
You're trying to make
okay, well, who are you trying to convince?
They are. You're trying to convince.
They already monsters.
Of Americans who
they rated
support these.
Joy, they rated an elementary school graduation. They rated an elementary school graduation. That's what they are. They already monsters.
They are, but we want Americans, some of whom are Democrats, some of whom are moderates, who don't support much of the way that these are being carried out, but who support the sentiment. They believe that if you are here illegally, you should not be here. I was just in a studio on Monday, and someone was telling me this, who supports our cause, who supports immigrants, but who feels like they shouldn't be here. Guys, this is a real sentiment. We got to stop believing that everyone feels the way that we do. They don't.
No. Let me be real clear. I understand sentiment. I understand sentiment. I'm real clear listen, I got a whole book on this. It's called White Fear. I understand sentiment. Okay? So this ain't got a damn thing to do with the sentiment. What I'm trying to explain to you is, I don't care if every single person in Los Angeles, Chicago, Detroit, Houston, Philadelphia, where protests are taking place, if every single one of them was waving an American flag, if they were sitting singing God Bless America and America the Beautiful and the Star Spangled Banner, do you know what the MAGA Republicans gonna say? Send their asses back.
You're right. I'm not talking.
That's what they're gonna say. I'm not tripping.
And our family members who are looking at them and saying, you know what, I really hate what I'm seeing, but we want to help them remove the but by making sure we are bringing people along with us and that we are saying what's happening here is inhumane and this is wrong. And no matter how you feel about whether people should.
Joy, it don't matter. Joy, they firing bullets. Joy, they're firing rubber bullets at journalists. They don't give a shit. They don't care.
It's not them.
I'm telling you, right? These people
will never convince MAGA. It's my.
Well, guess what? Okay, well. Hold up. Okay, so what you're saying is moderates are going, you know what? I would be on the same page with you if only they weren't flying those Mexican flags. Hell no, they ain't saying that.
No, but I do think what it says is that you want to be here. And so how do we create an image? This is a TV show. We've said that a couple of times. You have got to create a TV show that appeals to the people watching and the audience. And if you don't believe that, then keep doing what you're doing. But I think that they're going to have to.
I'm confused.
What we did in the rights movement, what we did. Otherwise, you have to be strategic and you have to know your audience. And what we are trying to do.
So no. We know the audience. We
differently in the midterms.
Okay, so I'm confused. Well, this is where I'm confused in, Rebecca, because these same folk go to Mexican restaurants. These same folk love them some salsa when they get chips, salsa, and guacamole when they go to restaurants. These same folk love dancing the salsa music. These same folk love them some Gloria Estefan. They love, the point I'm making here is there is nothing that you can do. You cannot put a suit on, put a tie on. You can't be quiet. You can't be, it doesn't matter. Where we are right now, these white folks are saying, we want all y'all gone. I have played that clip from The Under Shepherd. When the Matt Damon character says, when Joe Pesci said, we Italians got this, the Jews got this, the black folks, he didn't say black, he said the N-word, they got this, the Irish got the homeland. He said, what do you people have? And Matt Damon said, we got the United States of America. The rest of you are just visiting. That's just so you there's nothing you can't do. Go ahead.
So I'm listening to Joy's argument, and yes, Joy, I saw those talking points too. So tonight I'm in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm not too far, it's less than an hour away where the Pettus Bridge is. If John Lewis had the flag draped around him, rather than his church clothes and his church hard-bottom shoes going across that bridge, the outcome would have been the same. The dog still would have been sick.
Would have got his ass whooped. Would have got his ass whooped and would have wiped the blood in the American flag.
But one thing that was interesting is that when we saw the fights and we saw Bull O'Connor sick the dogs across Alabama, one thing that we noticed is that when it played on the nightly news, it was an effort to appeal to those white folks in the North. So they really understood that this is America. This is what's happening in America. Now, where I disagree with you, Joy, here is that it's not the Democrats or the moderates that I think this has to play out for as we go into the 2026 elections, but it's for those who opted not to vote. It's for those who decided they weren't going to be a part of the political process in 2024. So as they're seeing these American cities, they're seeing that the National Guard against the will of the governor is being called up by the president and is taking over American streets. Those are the types of folks that we need to get activated and for them to say, you know what, this is not okay. I'm actually going to use my voice here and I'm going to register my vote. And I'm actually going to vote here. It's not the moderate Democrats, because if you're a moderate Democrat and you're watching this and you go into the 2026 election cycle saying, the Democratic Party really hasn't convinced me that there's something wrong that's going on, then that's a whole different thing. But for those who have opted to not vote, not be a part of the electoral political process, it's those people that I think this is going to play out towards, and it's those people who I think are going to vote against the current regime in 2026.
Joe, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, I'll briefly say to kind of sum it all up, I think you do have to leave, if you can, an olive branch as it pertains to the potential for convincing some people, whether it's the moderates and Democrats, whether it's the people that aren't voting. You really have to still make that presentation, even though we have reason, it would seem, for us to be pessimistic about that. Because I think that if people vote the way that they're supposed to, and that's who I'd lean toward, people that aren't voting, these elections won't be close. And so we really have to do that the best way we can.
Joy, so here's the thing for me. It's a whole bunch of these Latinos down in South Texas along the border flying their Mexican flags, but they standing with Trump. So again, and I've seen the arguments. Look at them. How dare they fly their flags? The reason I take the issue with this because in this country, that's literally how white folks have been. You don't like it, go back to where you came from. Well, for us, that was the United States. That's how they operate. But them same white folks don't never take their ass back to Germany or Europe. So again, I get what people say, I just wish they would just fly the American flag. I guarantee you right now, if they all flew the American flag, them same folk, they're not going to change their sentiment. They're not. They're going to find some other damn excuse. Look at how they're dressed. Oh my God, look how loud they are. Oh my goodness, why must they block traffic? They just going to skip to the next thing. This is just one in the litany of things that they want to whine and complain about. Go ahead.
You're probably right. We're talking about everything that you can do to make sure that when the narrative is being created, you are making the other side look worse than you are. And I think Donald Trump is doing a great job at that. There's going to have to be more. Guys, look at your polling. The American people are not where we think they are on it. I hope it changes. I hope that if you do care about this issue, that you are calling into your member of Congress. Really, that's the only thing that matters. It's actually not what we see on TV and not what we see on the streets. You actually have to call in. If you care about these issues, you don't like what you see, you got to hit up your White House switchboard. You got to hit out your member of Congress switchboard. They have to believe this is going to cost them something. You have to be at the town halls, etc. That's the only thing that matters. That said, if you are a protester, I do think you have to be careful and strategic about the way you are being presented. And that is especially true. I'm glad that Rebecca brought up Bloody Sunday. One of the reasons we were successful is that America saw what happened there and they responded because it was so terrible. They wouldn't. So part of that, and we saw protesters who were nonviolent who were attacked. That was strategic in and of itself. So, Martin Luther King and everyone there, they were strategic. These protesters, I encourage them to be strategic as well. That's all I'm saying.
But there's a difference between, there's a huge difference between folk trying to get the right to vote and dressing up, being presentable, being nice, and you dealing with Jim Crow folk in the South. It's a difference between that and then you a parent and you at an elementary school graduation and ICE rolls in and parents flee, leaving crying kids at an elementary school graduation. It's a difference when so-called ICE agents in mask, showing no IDs, roll up to school saying, oh, the parents have given us permission to do a wellness check on their children. And the parents have given us permission to take their kids out of school. Straight as lying to the principal. The principal won't let them in. Then what happens is ICE people say, yeah, they with us, but they not really ICE agents.
Right.
So what's going on here? When these folks,
I'm talking about them.
When there are people, hold up. When there are people who are following the legal process and are showing up for appointments and are being snatched on their way to their appointment. They're following the legal process. When you got racists like Christopher Rufo, who literally posted this on his Substack. This is why the flag don't mean nothing. Christopher Rufo posted this. I read this yesterday, and I need to read it right now. This is the same white conservative who led the whole CRT and the anti-woke, the anti-DEI. He said, at the same time as we saw demonstrated in Portland, Oregon, during the George Floyd riots, the agencies should dispatch unmarked vans to follow key agitators and, quote, and this is what he says, and snatch them from the streets, bring all the panel up, and snatch them from the streets while the media are not looking. Says the most effective riot control is to take movement leaders off the field, infiltrate their networks, disrupt the flow of funding, and roll them up in federal investigations. He's denying the left-trained protest leaders now will create a strong precedent for the rest of the president's term. Rebecca, that is what one of their so-called thought leaders literally rolled out. This ain't got nothing to do with flags. These people, they are calling to snatch people off the streets unmarked. Trump is saying that he is going to send European citizens to Guantanamo Bay and will not tell their home country where they're located. Go ahead.
So, Roland, I'm in the movement space. I lead a national organization. A lot of the conversation that especially other leaders of color are having is about personal safety, safety of our staff. I personally know movement leaders, whether it's state leaders, local leaders, or national leaders, who now have security detail. Like, this is a very real conversation, even as people are going in and out of the country discussing, okay, do I take my laptop? Do I take my cell phone? Do I disable the biometrics on my devices just in case that when I'm crossing back into the United States, I'm detained and they're searching through my personal or work items? This is a very real conversation. This is a conversation even across philanthropy, on the progressive side, talking about what does it look like to provide rapid support, security support, emergency support for those who are leading during this time. And so, it's very real. It's very serious. This is also what, like, we keep using words like authoritarianism and totalitarianism and fascism. So another way of telling the audience, if we are a quote unquote nation of laws, if we have a constitution, if we're saying that people have the right to vote the way they want to vote, they have the right to speak out the way they want to speak out, they have the right to protest, they have all these First Amendment rights, which is the ultimate, the ultimate set of rights when we talk about First Amendment rights in this country. This president, this regime is saying that they're going to disregard it. They're saying it's not important. They're saying that they're above the law. And then last year, the Supreme Court said, well, the president could do whatever he wants to do because he is the president. So these are very troubling times. This isn't just something that I'm even saying in abstract. This is something having to live it out, having to talk to my staff and to make sure that they're not scared. Make sure that their families aren't scared. So earlier when I was saying it's time for white people to use their white bodies and their white privilege, this is what I'm talking about. Because if you are Black, if you are brown, if you are perceived as an other in this country, they would deport you too. Let's not act like Black Americans can't, quote unquote, be deported in this regime. That's next. That's what's happening. The whole point of this is to silence people, to scare them, to stun them. So then he could spend the next 3 years doing things that will permanently impact and permanently harm this country.
Mm-hmm. Final comment from Joe. Final comment from Joy. Then we are done.
We just have to make sense of everything that's going on. And if it doesn't make sense, we have to make sense of what it is that we do. We do have to be strategic about taking care of ourselves, about taking care of each other. A lot of these things have come to many of our minds. Everything from concealed carry permits on down. I mean, it is really on right now, the things that are going on and the things that we're thinking about. And so, and at the same time, I think there is a way to do both. Yeah, we're in a different place as it pertains to what the government seems to want to do, as it pertains to what the president seems to want to do. At the same time, I say that there is convincing to be had, convincing to be made, so that people that are inclined to vote the right way still need to be brought out to vote. We still need to be very, very aggressive about creating opportunities to vote, about understanding the moving targets and that keep getting made and the barriers that keep getting removed. We need people in entertainment with big money to help us with voter things. If it has to do with making sure people can get to the polls, that they have voter IDs, if that's what it is that they need to have, we can no longer not vote, not participate because of the barriers that are put up when we have the numbers. So whatever gets us there, that's what I support. Whatever gets us there, participating, belonging, and watching out for each other so that when something's amiss, we know right away, and therefore we can respond.
Joy.
I agree completely with what Joe and Rebecca have said. Really, this is a time of strategy. If you are a leader of an organization, you need clear goals, and you need to be able to say no to some things because that's not your lane, and you need to say yes to some things so that you can focus. You need to be focused on what you need to do in order to convince the decision makers that you need to convince. Whatever that looks like for you, you need to be able to do that and to zero in and focus on that. We are getting way too distracted with every comment and every issue that comes about. It is not important. Clear out the shiny red objects, sparkly objects, and focus on that which you can change and who you need in order to achieve that change. That's our only goal now. The feeling part, if you are a leader, the feeling part is what should drive you to be more strategic. So that's for our civil rights leaders. That's for our women's rights leaders. That's for the Democratic Party and any Republicans who want to be with us as well. If you don't like what you are seeing, this is the time to be strategic, to not just be impassioned, but to be smart. That's where we are going right now because the stakes are for all of us are high, but there are certain people the stakes are the highest for. And if we care about them, we have to be smart.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Vice President Kamala Harris said that Donald Trump was going to send the army after you. And the Hill newspaper said, oh, my God, she's lying. Well, guess what happened? Donald Trump's sending 700 Marines to California after ICE. Well, we think it's ICE. Individuals proclaimed to be ICE, wearing masks, not showing any IDs, started the violence over the weekend that's led to massive protests there. Now, Trump, J.D. Vance, Republicans, they want to make the claim that, oh, my God, L.A. is going up in flames, when that is not the case. It is not the case. The mayor has said so. The governor has said so. The Los Angeles Police Department has said so. But this is what Donald Trump wants to do. He desperately wants to use the military to quell unrest, or what he perceives to be unrest in this country. His immigration policy, it started, they literally went to a school graduation, elementary school graduation, caused parents to flee, leaving kids stranded there. That's what we're seeing happening, how ICE is operating. They even arrested the head of the SEIU union there in California. Let's talk about what's going on there with our guest, Rudy DeLeon, a senior fellow, National Security International Policy Center for the Center for American Progress. Also, we have California State Assemblyman Mike Gibson with us as well. So glad to have both of you here. Mike, I want to start with you. News. Just give us a sense of the madness happening there. You have the LAPD that said peaceful protest. You had the mayor say that. So the people in Los Angeles are saying one thing. Donald Trump and his MAGA folks are saying totally something different.
That's right. First of all, thank you very much, Roland. Exactly. The president has sent in the National Guards, and yet today, in 24 hours, we'll have 700 Marines coming into Los Angeles to try to keep the peace, according to what the president is trying to say. We have had peaceful protests taking place. We've had young people, put some things on fire. But by and large, and I want to say by and large, it has been peaceful protests taking place. I want to underscore what has taken place. When the National Guards, under the direction of President Donald Trump, have sent those National Guards here, it further inflamed what is taking place around the national, around peaceful protesting taking place. When ICE, or those masquerading as ICE agents, going into graduations, going to elementary schools, going and pulling kids out of school. We had a elementary school student in Torrance, at Torrance Elementary School, being uprooted at the elementary school and being deported now in Texas, and God knows where this child is. We had one of our labor leaders, David Wartha, who went to a demonstration, who was singled out, who was abused at a detention center, and he himself was detained, abused, sent to the hospital, was refused any kind of medical attention. The mayor was called. The mayor sent medical attention there, and he was transported to the hospital and then detained and placed in a detention center and was isolated, and no one was able to see him. And today we had a demonstration, and today he was actually released on bail. But that was thousands of people rallying in support. This has been further exacerbated by the Trump administration by bringing in these militarized units, coming in with AK-47, with assault weapons, with tanks, with military kinds of weapons, and terrorizing our communities. And our communities are paralyzed, but also enraged. It's walking down the street. We had one man testify, said he was walking down the street with his girlfriend, and they jumped out of the car. He was holding to his girlfriend. She pulled out her phone, started videotaping. They threw him to the ground and just grabbed her and threw her in the car and arrested her and drove off. And he don't know where this girl is at. And she's a United States citizen. She was born and raised here as a college student. And this is what's happening in the streets of Los Angeles. And people are damn mad. I am mad at what's going on right now. So he is furthering, flaming hysteria and just outrage what's going on here in Los Angeles. And so to bring in the National Guard, to bring in 700 Marines, he's causing a war right here, and he's attacking Americans to further, Project 2025 in this country.
I'm looking at this tweet right here. It said ICE raid Los Angeles elementary schools to make welfare check on first graders. Principal blocked entry. Disguised federal agents told school staff they had parents' permission to take kids out of class. That was an outright lie. They quickly hid their IDs when asked for details, arrived in unmarked cars and wore casual clothing, leading to confusion about who they actually were. The Department of Homeland Security confirmed that the agents worked for them, but they claimed they were not technically ICE agents. However, the federal agents said they were at the school to make a welfare check on students they claimed were, quote, unaccompanied minors who crossed the border. The parents and legal guardians deny any interaction with these entities and certainly deny providing authorization for these individuals to have any contact with these children at the school. I mean, this is what's crazy. These people are doing whatever the hell they want to do. We don't know who they are. They're not showing IDs. They're hiding their masks. We don't know if they're Proud Boys. We don't know if they are the Patriots group, white supremacists. We literally do not know. And Donald Trump's folks act like we don't give a damn. We don't have to tell you.
And that's just right. We're not going to release our children to complete strangers. They could be pedophiles. Who, for all we know, we're not going to allow anyone to come up to our schools and grab our kids just to say that, you know, they're doing a welfare check. So we've been educating not only our principals, but our teachers, but our communities to know their rights. Not to, if someone knock on their door, no, we want to see papers. We want to see a signed order by some kind of judge. We are educating our community to making sure that they know their rights, and to have these individuals go after children, minors, and trying to gain entry into their homes or to elementary schools. How dare you, Donald Trump, and also ICE agents have a conscience. So, you know, these are the kinds of tactics they're doing to our communities. And yes, our community is scared. And so we're calling on everyone to, one, know your rights, and making sure that we, you know, black and brown, one, stand together, because we know that we're powerful when we stand together against these kinds of attacks against our communities. And so our mayor, to even just yesterday, to have one of Donald Trump's appointees to say that any elected official stands in our way, we will arrest not only the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, and the governor. How dare you threaten the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, who was a former member of Congress, but also our governor of the state of California? I mean, you are stooping to these kinds of low kind of tactics. I mean, damn politics. This is the leader of our state, the leader of the mayor of the city of Los Angeles. You threaten that you're going to throw them in jail? How dare you? These are our leaders. These are what we're elected to lead the state and the city of Los Angeles, and you're going to threaten them? All that's going to continue to do is anger, you know, Californians. And that's what they're doing. Congresswoman Maxine Waters, under the law, the members of Congress have a right to, one, look at detention centers and making sure those who are being detained have the right to do welfare checks. And they were denied entry into those facilities. Jimmy Gomez, Congresswoman Torres, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, and the whole entire LA delegation was denied entry. By law, they have a right to. That is, again, a slap in that delegation's face. And I hope that they will go to Congress today and tomorrow and raise hell.
I'm bringing Rudy right now. Rudy, first of all, you're seeing something. Donald Trump is not targeting red states. He's purposely doing this in blue states. He wants to provoke action. This is what he wants. This is exactly what he wants to accomplish.
So thanks, Roland, for the invitation to be on your show. You're right. You know, today, the use of military units into a domestic environment, that should always be the tool of last resort. But deploying the National Guard to Los Angeles right now just seems to want to inflame the situation that started with the ICE agents last week, and it could lead to an increase, not a decrease, in the tensions and the violence. It's actually unheard of for units like the National Guard in California and now the Marines to be deployed without the request of the governor or the mayor. That's the standard practice. And so by every measure, the LA police, the sheriff's office, the surrounding municipalities, you know, they should be in charge of dealing with their own citizens. You know, LA is a complicated place. It has a lot of history, some good, some not good. But I think in this particular case, the law enforcement are the face to the community and for the community. And to bring in Marines who are very capable, but not trained for this mission. They're trained to deal with, you know, guerrilla insurrections or other complicated missions overseas. So we put them in an impossible situation when we ask them to come into one of our big cities, particularly the Marines that are coming from 29 Palms, because that's a training center where you train the Marines for military combat. not for law enforcement. Police officers are trained to diffuse situations, not to escalate them. Now, to the Assemblyman's key point, I know a little about Torrance, California, because long before I worked in the Pentagon for President Clinton, I actually was raised in Torrance, California. So I know the people, I know the community. It's Hispanic, it's Asian, it's Caucasian, and everybody gets along with each other. So I think we're walking into uncharted territories. This is a time where the White House this afternoon has put up all of the fencing for the big parade that's to occur at the end of the week. It's not lost on me that the men that were driving the forklifts and putting up the security fencing were mostly speaking Spanish with each other. That's a strength of our diversity back with each other. And so sometimes you put the accelerator on. Right now is a time to brake, and that's let the mayor and the governor be the face of the response. And then everybody should take a step back and remember that our Bill of Rights was written because there were checks. We did not want a King of England in the United States. And when you look at those 10 amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights that we now take for granted, that was exactly what was intended to countercheck. So it really is a sad day to see our troops being deployed in this way.
Well, I think one of the things that we need to recognize here, again, when you talk about what a person's intent is, Donald Trump was not lying when he said he wanted to be a dictator. He wanted to be a strong man. He's praised other autocrats, other dictators as well. And what I hope with his actions, and MAGA, look, they're gone, but I would hope the 90 million Americans that did not vote, I would hope independents, I would hope these people are waking up and rising up and recognizing that these people do not give a damn about the Constitution. They do not care about checks and balances. They want to do whatever they want, and there's only one party that is going to stand up to them, and that is the Democratic Party. Donald Trump's party, the Republican Party, they are not going to do anything to put this man in check. They simply are scared to death. They are scared to criticize him. Senator Lisa Murkowski talked about death threats that Republicans get. So it's real simple. They're not going to do anything. And this is where the people have to rise up and, yes, take to the streets to say, no, this is not what we are going to tolerate in this country. I want to go to Rudy first. I'm going to go to Rudy first on that. I'm going to go to Rudy first, and then I'm going to go to Mike.
Now, the president should be the first person to try to diffuse the current situation and not to escalate it. And so that's the environment that we need to step into right now. It's the irony of the announcement of the Marines moving was made at 4 p.m. here in Washington so it could lead the national news tonight. We really do need to change the storyline on not how do we escalate this, but how do we turn it over to the local community, to their leaders, and let them solve this.
Well, again, Mike, I don't have an issue with the local leaders solving this. But what I am saying is this is not going to end just right here. Donald Trump wants to instigate a fight. And the people need to understand they cannot sit on the sideline watching this thug do what he is doing.
I absolutely agree with you. And right now, Congresswoman Maxine Waters said at an event that everybody needs to get in this fight. It's not just Latinos, African Americans. We call on all those whose names have been written down, who's still alive, those who fought alongside Martin Luther King and John Lewis and others in the 60s and 70s. We call upon them right now to stand with us, even with the young people who's trying to gain their legs, to get involved in this fight, because we need everyone who is able-bodied to be part of this fight, to be part of this narrative. We call upon those because it's going to mean that all of us in this fight together, in order for us to making sure that we are able to flip the houses in next year, that we can gain and kind of reverse what has Donald Trump has been done with these executive orders, and making sure the Supreme Court, most of all, the Supreme Court holds the line to making sure that they stand up against Donald Trump, because I know that the governor of the state of California and also our Attorney General Rob Bonta is filing lawsuits against this administration this week for what they're doing by bringing in the National Guards. This is our domain, and it's not the president's domain. This is setting precedents, and we need to make sure that we push back in a large way. The state of California, the legislature has given the Attorney General $25 million to want to make sure that he is armed with the resources that we need in order to fight against and file lawsuits against this administration like we did when he was president the first time. And we're going to stand toe-to-toe with him. And again, he's picking these fights, and we're going to make sure that we stand toe-to-toe with him. We're not going to cow down. And again, California is a donor state. We give $80 billion as a donor state. And I'm asking, because of all the cuts and all the federal resources that he's cutting away from California, diverting these monies, clawing monies back, that we don't give these monies to the federal government at all, especially what he's doing to us. We should not be giving these monies to the federal government at all. He is pissing on California. He's picking a fight with California, and I think there's going to be a fight that we'll give him one back. But with all of the ammunition he's coming and the artillery he's coming in with to California to wage war. This is a political war that he's using the military against California to try to prove some kind of point. This is wrong because he's hurting Americans. He's hurting Californians, and this should not be done, because if Barack Obama had done this, if Joe Biden had done this, it would be outpours all over the world, the country. But because he's doing this with Elon Musk and others, we should stand up against all of them and call it what it is.
Oh, well, we had Congresswoman Maxine Waters on the show last week, and she said she absolutely called for nonviolent resistance to what is going on. And it must be constant pressure. The concern, Rudy, though, is that Donald Trump is so unstable, so unhinged, that people are afraid that he is going to sick law enforcement on folks if they do protest. But frankly, fear cannot be the overriding issue here. This is where I think we'll be assisted by many of our elders. And I really hope that what is happening in California awakens people, because we are seeing this all over. Later in this, when I talk to my panel, we're going to talk about a Chilean woman who was in New York on vacation with her child, who cops just arrested her, left her 12-year-old daughter there, and then held the woman for 8 hours. The woman was on vacation. These people are simply unhinged. Rudy?
You are exactly right. Everybody needs to come and vote, and we need to change the climate. California is one of the great states, and the notion that a president would, disgrace it like we have going on right now just can't stand.
But I also,
Rudy DeLeon, I appreciate you. Yes, Mike, go ahead.
This. If those 90 million people, if all what has happened right now doesn't awaken those 90 million people who stayed at home, I'm not sure what will. If they're not convinced that this administration should not be in the White House, should not be in power, I'm not sure what will. If they have not seen what's going on TV and all across this country, just look at what's going on in California, I'm not sure what will be enough to convince them. If they have not seen enough bloodshed, all across this country. Just look at California as an example. I'm not sure what will.
Right.
It's too much at stake for anyone to stay at home in this next upcoming election next year, that we cannot afford to, one, have another 2 more years to allow this man to stay in power. Enough is enough. And we're calling on everybody to do everything we can in a peaceful manner to making sure that we can regain our democracy back, to control America and move it back to where it once was, a sensible country. But this is not the America that we know.
Well, Mike,
Well
here's the
said,
point
Mike.
that I consistently make. This is the point that I consistently make on this show. The election 2026 is in November. The reality is we cannot wait until the election in November 2026. People must be making their voices now, I believe, through non-violent protesting, which is important because there are also state elections. There are things that needs to be happening. But in order for us to get folks there, we have to be inform them, enlighten them, educate them on what the issues are. And I'll be honest, there were a lot of people who said, yeah, he's not going to go that far. I don't think he's going to do that. I've heard this numerous places. Now they are seeing everything Hillary Clinton said, everything Vice President Kamala Harris said, everything that we said about President 2025. All these things are real. And if they've already shown you 4 and 5 and 10 and 20 and 30 times, it's going to be more. And so people need to understand they are serious about what they're doing. They're executing the agenda. And only the American people, if they stand up and rise up, can they stop them. But if people remain silent and quiet and meek and weak, then they will be emboldened.